Welcome, gorgeous, and thank you so much for being here with us. I'm honored to have you here sharing today. And to begin, could you share with us a little bit of your journey and what led you into the beautiful work that you're doing today?
Thank you for this question. I'm honored to be here and to be connecting with your community. So, a bit about my story, where I got to where I am today. It's funny looking back, right, how the dots all connect, because in high school, I knew I wanted to be a sex therapist. Not that I'm a sex therapist now, but I'm a sex coach. And I took, the journey of not linear path of just kind of figuring out the natural path of where I was going. And I was cutting hair for 10 years. And, I learned how much I loved to help people, but it wasn't the right container. And so through my own traumas, my own life experience, I was led to Tantra. And what originally led me to Tantra was feeling dependent on my vibrator. We're going to go straight in. So I was dependent on my vibrator.
Here we dive right in.
I love how you just go right in. And so years and years of using my vibrator kept me in this dependency. And so the first thing I learned in Tantra was like, release the need to orgasm. And here I am like wanting to learn to orgasm. So just like, all right, cosmic joke. And along that path of, having my trauma, I had, sexual assault in my early 20s. And as I previously mentioned to you, like I didn't realize that it was rape. Right. So we're going to go into these heavy topics. So trigger warning, if anyone isn't comfortable listening to that. I didn't consider it rape until one of my mentors later on was like, do you realize like this is what that was? And because growing up, all this fear and all this distortion on the news has you thinking that rape looks a certain way, right? Like dark alley violence. And so in my head, I blamed myself. I'm like, was it what I was wearing? Was it because I'd already given myself to him? He thought he had permission to do what he wanted with my body. And that led me down a path of needing to heal the womb because it felt like there was a big disconnection, and listening to my intuition and creating healthier boundaries for myself. So yeah, through the vibrator dependency, through the sexual assault, and wanting to heal, wanting to really be my own healer and take my own power back. Got me to where I am today.
It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing about that openly because it's very heartbreaking, but I think the statistics of women experiencing sexual assault is like 1 in 4 now. So I just really honor you for having the courage to share your story, because I know so many, not just women, but so many humans need to hear it, as it's unfortunately something that's so common. I'm just wondering, what steps did you begin to take? Because a vibrator, I don't use many toys, which surprises people because I'm pretty openly kinky and open-minded, but I don't because I feel a disconnect from my yoni and from my body when I have something in between. So with that being said, and then also experiencing, you're using a vibrator and then experiencing that assault as well, what steps did you take to really reconnect or connect for the first time with your body and also with your sexual energy to become comfortable and safe with it again?
I love hearing you say that there's, a disconnection when you use a toy, because that's so true, right? So that is actually one of the steps I took, was actually starting to connect with my body with my own hands and do a lot of clearing out work, of releasing old partners from my womb, doing a lot of energetic cord cutting, and then moving into self-pleasure practices that really respected the self-consent. Learning to give myself consent before penetration changed my entire paradigm of life, of my relationship to orgasm, of my relationship to sex, because in this Western culture, we're so like get to the point, go straight in. And to me, it's like sex is such a like microcosm to the macrocosm. The way that we show up in the bedroom is the way we show up to life. So to me, to give myself consent before even penetrating myself showed myself like, wow, there's this connection I get to have with my yoni where she's like her own consciousness and she gives me messages, and doing a lot of personal development work around boundaries and around honoring my own body and what feels like a yes and what feels like a no, because people pleasing and perfectionism can really take you out of your own power. And so healing those things for me were a huge, huge component.
Wow. I love that. And when you're giving yourself consent, is it like, were you speaking to your yoni, or was it more of an internal like feeling?
So it can look like I usually place one hand on my heart, one hand on my womb, and just connect into my yoni and ask her, like, is this something that you're wanting? Is this something that you're willing and open to receive? And it's usually like a contraction or an expansion. And so the expansion to me is yes. And the contraction is like, okay, maybe we'll just play energetically today.
Wow. I love that. Yeah. I've never actually heard it in that way before. That's so beautiful. There's a lot of disconnect between, for women and just for all of us, between our yonis and our private parts and our private bits, especially from childhood, as we're not taught to really honor these parts. So I think that's a really beautiful practice. And as you teach Tantra as well and dive into tantric practices, a view in Tantra that we have is that really all of this existence and this human experience is divine. And that can be a challenging concept for some to grasp because there's so much suffering and evil, however you want to word it, and happening in this world. And having experienced, such a difficult experience that you did, are you someone that believes that, say, there's like a purpose for everything that happens, even things like that?
Oh, I love how you brought that in, because that is such a big principle in Tantra, is going to those shadowy places and finding God there. So there is that perspective of everything's here to serve me. Like, I wouldn't be where I am today if that didn't happen to me. I wouldn't have such a deep sense of empathy for women. So I see how that served me. But then when I think of like child sex trafficking, which is one of the biggest shadows on the planet, it's like, well, what is that doing? So it's, my mind wants to think like, okay, I understand this happened for me. But then when it comes to something so big like that, it's like, okay, well, what is that doing for us? So that's something I'm still playing with, is like, how can I find God in that situation? How is that serving the planet?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same position. Sometimes it makes sense, and sometimes I'm like, what the hell is going on? But I do really believe in finding our medicine and even our purpose in some of, the dark things that happen to us in our generation, because I really do see us as a bridge between an old way of being and a lot of disease in the world, and creating this kind of new earth, if you want to call it that, for the generations to come, so that maybe it won't be as common when they're coming into the world. So, yeah. Why do you feel there's such a disconnect from our sexuality and, say, our yonis?
Ooh, my goodness, such a juicy question. In my opinion, it stems back to the patriarchy. Back when agriculture was first a thing, right? When people started owning property, and then women, and then religion, right? Coming in to try to create some sense of control over humanity. And to me, like, if you ever want to control a collective, you suppress their sexuality. And to me, that is through religion, that is through fear. I think in general, the patriarchy feared right? The power of the women, because we are so powerful. And when I say patriarchy, I'm not saying men are bad. Like, we need men, but the patriarchy I'm talking about is the one that is suppressing, you know, the divine feminine that is emerging through us. So it can be through upbringing, it can be through trauma, or, you know, religious conditioning, or the patriarchy. It's many, many forms.
Yeah, it's really a revolution of reconnecting to our pleasure and reclaiming it. It's wild. And I think when we're able to reclaim our pleasure and our sexual power, like you said, we can't be controlled, because it's such a powerful, powerful energy to work with. And I think that's why this work right now is so important.
So important. Yeah.
So what's your absolute favorite way to connect to your feminine energy, or to the divine feminine?
I'm just like dropping into this question and really feeling it. I would say, depending on the day, dance. Dance for sure is the common theme for me. And that can look like, you know, ecstatic goddess worship, or that can mean, you know, booty shaking to my favorite hip hop song. Or it can mean going to a pole dancing class and really embracing that dark, erotic, feminine energy.
My dog likes your answer. She's like, yes. So she likes to use her voice to connect.
Aw, I love that. Yeah, our voice and our yonis are so connected.
I know. I'm like, I tell her to be quiet, but I'm like, actually, just roar. Let it out, sister.
Let it out.
Yeah, I love it. I love that response, because dancing to me has been, and some of the classes that I hold with sensual dance as well, is really a way of connecting to different archetypes and aspects of the feminine. So like in my classes, I'll have some like gangster rap, and then I'll have some slow sensual, and then I'll have some, you know, very like tribal, spiritual, like shamanic, and then I'll have some like Iggy, and and it's that we're all aspects of the feminine, and we can use different tools like music and dance to connect to those different aspects that are within ourselves. So I really love that as a practice. What else? So if someone was, say, a woman or someone found this podcast and they've experienced sexual assault on some level and feel this disconnect with their bodies or their feminine energy, and feminine can be for male or female, or their sexual energy, what would you recommend a good starting place? So I know you shared that you began by giving yourself, you know, connecting with your yoni in that way. So that would probably be a good place to start. And what other steps would you recommend for them for healing that, and also becoming comfortable and safe in their bodies again?
Absolutely. What a great question. I think that, first of all, having the support you need, whether it's, you know, a trauma-informed therapist or someone who is really familiar with sexual assault, and being witnessed, being heard, and being seen are huge elements to the healing process. I don't know if you've ever experienced just having someone with you when you're able to cry and just like feel the unfelt things, and just feeling witnessed in all of that is so healing. And like, this is real, this happened to me, and you are so valid. Like, your feelings are valid. So other than having the support to really feel seen and held, I would say connecting energetically with your yoni, because I think penetration can feel so intimidating for someone who just went through trauma. So reconnecting with your womb from this place of love and compassion, because when we can hold ourselves with love and compassion through all the challenges of life, it's like we have our own back, right? So really learning how to hold our nervous system and tune into our nervous system, and like, what do I need right now? for my healing process? What is my body asking for? And really starting to drop into that connection to your body, that your body is wise, your body has the answers. Because I think we're taught to look, elsewhere for all the answers. And it's like, it's all right here. It's all right here. And connecting with her energetically, or even just cupping her and visualizing what she looks like on the inside and breathing into her. So there's many ways to start slowly and gently.
I love that.
Thank you.
Along your journey, because you've been doing this healing work for a while and this self development work in this area, do you find, so from your experience, do you still have trauma that comes up from that, or do you feel like you're in a very healed space from it?
I would say that doesn't so much come up as much as, other wounding that I've had. I've noticed other wounding where I'm like, I thought I healed that. And you're just randomly rearing your ugly head. But yeah, there are moments where it can come up and rear its head, but it's not as strong and it doesn't take over. It's more like, okay, it's time to drain you out again and let you go and love you for your purpose here. But I wouldn't say that one so much haunts me anymore, which I'm really grateful for.
Beautiful. And have you done any forgiveness work towards that person who hurt you?
Yes, I have.
Was it difficult? Yeah. I've done my own forgiveness and it's been a big journey. It takes a while to get there, but I know it is possible.
Yeah, it takes repetition. And like the first time, it feels like, I wanted to be sick, honestly. And like, why on earth would I do this? But it's for us, right? But visualizing them out in front of you with eyes closed and being able to tell them what you wish you could, and then learning from their perspective, like what would they say to that? And being able to forgive someone who never apologized, or maybe doesn't even realize the harm that they caused, is powerful work. Like, that's for me, not for them. So yeah, it's really challenging, but I have practiced that for many different people. Yeah.
Incredible. Well, just honoring all the work that you do within yourself and with others as well. Do you want to share a little bit about the work that you do with women, or do you work with everyone?
I currently work with women. I am feeling a call from spirit to work with couples at some point. The work that I do with women is to help them create an orgasmic life. And what I mean by that is that you wake up out of bed, turned on, ready to fill your day with pleasure. And it's just such a natural way of being and living that becomes your new homeostasis. We just came out with a program called Sacred Sexuality, Awaken the Pleasure Priestess, which is one of my signature programs. And I'm so honored to be able to bring it out into the world because we've been working on it since November, and we just birthed her out about a week or two ago. And the people that are in it are absolutely loving it. And we're going to be having another round here very, very soon. And that work is everything I've learned in my, 12 years of studying sexuality is poured into that course. So
powerful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's exciting. I love it. And I love the concept of adding more pleasure, like infusing pleasure into our daily routine. And also that I feel habits really begin to stick when we infuse pleasure into them. And that's not always the way that we learn it in the self-help industry. It's like, get up early and you're not supposed to be doing a lot of the things that you do, but you're doing it for success. And I love the idea that we can actually have fun while, chasing our dreams and becoming, in the process of all of this, like changing our habits and everything it can be fun. It can be easy. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I have to do this. I have to do this. Right.
Right. Yeah. And especially when it comes to doing the shadow work, learning to go into the shadow and then go into pleasure, go into the shadow, go into pleasure, instead of just being stuck in the shadow. It's like, how can we get turned on from going in there?
I love that. Yeah. A concept I had that came up recently was I went through this very dark night of the soul, like about a year and a half ago. That was triggered by the pandemic and just my life like falling apart because I was traveling and I had like no worries. And then all of a sudden I was stuck somewhere and all of that. And then I'm like, oh, this dark night of the soul, like it has this whole stigma with it. And like, oh, I just need to get out of this. And then I was like, what if instead of like rising from the ashes when I'm already down here where everything's burnt down, what if I learned to dance here and like find pleasure here? I'm like, I like that.
Yes. I got a vision of you in the underworld, just like let it.
I was there for a while. I'm like, I got comfortable there actually. I'm like, this isn't so bad.
And that's so beautiful. It's like once we surrender to the underworld, it's like nothing can, scare us anymore. So honoring you in that experience.
Thank you. And that is, again, such a big part of Tantra, that we learn how to dance through the darkness and the light and not seeing it so polarized, but, feeling that everything is in its own special way divine.
Absolutely.
Okay, my love. Well, is there anything else you would like to share?
I think the biggest message that's coming through is that reminding women to be their own sources, being self-sourced in their pleasure and not waiting for someone else to give it to them is my biggest mission on this planet, to give women their power back. So.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Not being reactions to everything externally and knowing that everything we're seeking is coming from within.
Absolutely.
Powerful truth, powerful shares. Thank you so much. Beautiful.
Thank you for having me.
Where can we find you on your social media or website?
Yeah, Instagram is I am Melissa Peters, Melissa with 1 L, 2 S, and my website is the same, IamMelissaPeters.com.
Perfect. And I'll also add the links in the show notes.
Wonderful. Thank
you so much for sharing your beautiful story and for your vulnerability and for all the work that you're doing. I know that hearing this will help many who are listening.
Thank you for creating a space for me to share my story and to connect with your community.
Thank you.